Hi all, my name is Viola and I've been interviewing my dad about his 1997 Everest summit climb. He went on an expedition with Nova, which was filming a documentary called Everest the Death Zone, and he was there climbing with guys like Ed Viesturs, David Brashears, and a few other pretty famous climbers of our time. Even though this was 30 years later, I have a lot of questions for him, so I created this series called My Dad Climbed Everest and I Have Questions. This was originally made for TikTok, so that's the reason it's formatted the way it is in these YouTube videos, but basically these are just compilations of those videos. So go check out my TikTok if you want to see them in their original form, otherwise stay tuned for this compilation. In this video, we're talking about all the mountains he climbed in preparation for Everest. It's a lot. What climbing Denali was like, and what climbing Aconcagua was like, and the coldest he's ever been in the mountains. So enjoy.
Have I done any other 8,000 meter peaks? No. Um, Everest is about all I could handle, I think, mentally and physically. I mean, there's some other peaks, 8,000 meter peaks that I would do, but I don't think I'm not in the same caliber as like Ed Viesturs or Guy Cotter and those guys. Once it's enough. Other mountains that I've climbed Denali. I've been on the summit 5 times. I've attempted it 7 times. Mount Rainier, 55 times. Aconcagua, summited 4 times. Kilimanjaro, 3 times. And then multiple climbs in the Pacific Northwest and the Cascades, especially like Mount Shuxton. Just a lot of different peaks out there. I climb with my old climbing partner, Darren Goff, and we did a lot of climbs in the Pacific Northwest. So I've been on Denali 7 times, and I've been on the summit 5 times. And Denali was, I first climbed it in 1982 when I graduated from high school. And I went with a guide service called Rainier Mountaineering Incorporated. And then when I got out of college, that's who I worked for. And I had multiple climbs on Denali through the guide service. We'd take people up the West Buttress route. The climb on Denali is an awesome climb. It's a great adventure. You do need some basic mountaineering skills, and I'd recommend climbing Rainier a few times and learning how to do crampon, walk with crampons, walk and do rope travel and self-arrest, and how to take care of yourself at altitude. It's important, but the Denali climb can take between 16 days to 24 days. It's very weather dependent, and it's a climb that can go great for half the climb, and then you suddenly get in a storm that lasts 4 to 5 days up on the mountain. And you got to be physically fit, and you got to be able to suffer. And Denali can be extremely cold, can be extremely uncomfortable, and you're eating a lot of dehydrated food, a lot of mashed potatoes, a lot of ramen, stuff like that. So the diet's kind of limited, and you're burning a lot of calories because you're at altitude. Plus, it's pretty cold. You want to make sure you have good gear for that climb, and you got to be able to manage that climb from a mental standpoint, because it's real easy on Denali to get at the base of the Kahiltna Glacier and and kind of freak out because the summit's way up there. And Denali's the type of mountain you want to take one day at a time, and just have a goal of getting to the next camp or making that load to the next camp. And that way you can micromanage the mountain and you don't get stressed out because it's such a big mountain. But it's my favorite climb. I've had some great times on the Denali, and I've had some really crappy times. The really crappy times, I was up there for 24 days, and the weather never cooperated. We got pretty high. We got to 16,000 feet, but we had to turn because we were up there for so long. And it was just one of those years that, like, every few days you get these huge monster storms that would come in and dump a lot of snow. And so we didn't summit. We tried hard, but it was just so hard. And we turned around on that one, and that was depressing. And there was some group dynamics in that climb. Some people didn't get along. They're kind of, maybe once in a while they'd be an asshole because they were stressed because they kind of knew we weren't going to be able to summit. But the cool thing about these long expeditions like Denali, you get to see who people are, their personalities are, and it's kind of fun to see that develop. I've had great climbs on Denali. The one time we did it in 16 days round trip because we had perfect weather. and everybody was healthy. And every day was a blue sky day, no wind, and we just kind of chugged along, got to the summit. And it's such a cool feeling to be on the summit of Denali and looking around at the Alaskan range. But the coolest thing about Denali is the bush pilot flights from Talkeetna to the Kahiltna Glacier, and especially after a successful climb, that flight from the Kahiltna Glacier back to Talkeetna and going in the Fairview Inn in Talkeetna and having a few beers and celebrating your success. That's what it's all about. Aconcagua is a wonderful climb, especially if you're considering or you've done like Denali, kind of wanting to kind of work your way up in altitude. I've done Aconcagua, I think 4 times, and I really enjoy it because you can fly to the United States. The best time to go is like January, February. Those are the sweet spots, sweet times to go. And it averages about 21 days to 24 days round trip from the United States. And flying to South America is pretty cool. Chile and Argentina are really cool countries, great food. But Aconcagua is pretty straightforward. It's really the routes you do if you're going with the guide services, the normal route, and then there's a Polish glacier variation route, which we did. Um, they're straightforward. It's good cramponing. You'll be on a rope on summit day for a little section. It's a good warm up because it's at 22,800. I think. I can't remember the exact elevation. It's been a while, but it's a good time to test your body at altitude. And that's a climb I'd recommend. You don't want to show up. You definitely want to show up fit, but I also recommend maybe testing out Diamox. If you want to test out Diamox, it'd be a good time. That helps you with acclimation. Aconcagua, you're carrying some heavy loads on certain days, and so it's a hard climb. Man, it's manageable, and anybody can do it if you're in good shape and you have some basic mountaineering knowledge. And Aconcagua is also another one of those trips that you learn how to conserve energy at altitude, how to pace yourself, and how to walk with crampons on and not burn yourself out. I will tell you the coldest I've ever been on a mountain in my life was in 1990, Aconcagua on summit day. It was so cold. Our water bottles froze. We had our water bottles tied around a piece of webbing, and I remember having it inside my down jacket against my chest, and it was partially frozen when we were going up to the final 800 vertical feet to the summit. It was so cold. One of the guys on the trip we had to go in a little shelter, and he had to warm up his feet, take his shoes off, and we put his shoes underneath our armpits to kind of warm his feet up so he wouldn't get frostbite. And it was windy, it was clear, but it was just mind-numbing cold. And the sun had not come up. We were climbing pretty fast, kind of before the sun came up, and so we didn't have the benefit in most of the climb to the top of having any type of UV radiation warmth.